So today's ranking list will be focused on Sony's first-party development studios for their PlayStation console. What's a first-party studio, you ask? Well, in gaming terminology, it's a developer owned by its publisher. So famous examples would be, say, Bungie back in the day via Xbox before they left. Now, for this whole last gaming generation, when I say that, I mean the PS4, Xbox One generation, no argument about it. Sony had the most drool-worthy, credible lineup of first-party studios. Until recently,
Undead Labs to Microsoft Studios, Playground Games, Compulsion Game, Ninja Theory to Microsoft Studios.
This is usually the moment when I say hello and welcome to the Bethesda E3 showcase. We love that we can share the stage with Xbox this year.
Now, Xbox had about 11 okay studios. They've jumped up to 23 development studios. It's absolutely insane. And it's basically giving Sony a run for its money. So the purpose of this video is to analyze what ammo Sony is packing in its clip for this new generation. There's been a few restructures that were controversial. There's been a few acquisitions that were not surprising, but great regardless. So it'd be cool just to rank the quality of these studios. Now, none of these studios are bad, but it's interesting to sort of pit them against each other and see which one's going to come out at top and which one's going to sit at the bottom. And just a very quick notification. I'm going to be excluding 4 of Sony's in-house studios, specifically San Mateo, XDev, and Malaysia Studio, and also their recent acquisition of Nixxes. This is because they are only support houses, or they're focused on more sort of technical sides of game development. They are not game creators. Anyway, enough of me chatting. Let's dive right into it. Forward Works. This studio is best known for Disgaea RPG mobile version, Everybody's Golf mobile, Ark the Lad R. This studio was created in 2016, and the reason they're way down at the bottom of this list is so they make specifically phone design games only within Japan based on old Sony IPs. Not a bad idea at all, but just feels a little bit experimental. Sony's played around with the mobile market a couple times. They've tried, they failed. This one has been around for a couple of years, so it's been a steady earner, but they've kept it smart and only specifically within Japan. They haven't tried to break through to the Western market, so let's face it, this is pretty niche studio pumping out very niche product. What's interesting though is recently Sony has said they do really want to start investing into mobile. They've seen the recent success with Nintendo, and they're even hiring a new head of mobile. Interesting how Forward Works fits into that. If Sony maybe is going to be utilizing these guys to a bigger extent over in the West. I'm not much of a mobile gamer, so I haven't tackled any of this stuff. I do think it's kind of cool to resurrect stuff like Ark the Lad, Wild Arms, also working on a Parappa the Rapper mobile game, which I think is pretty damn cool if I'm being honest. But people don't even know these guys exist, so they're going to sit right at the bottom of the list. Pixelopus, best known for Entwined and Concrete Genie. Back in the 360 generation, the PS3 generation, Xbox was absolutely killing it with indie games developed for their Xbox marketplace. Sony knew they really had to get in on that competition, and they started this very successful collaboration with that game company, resulted in a series of games starting with Flower, and then ended with the massive critical and commercial success of Journey in 2012. Now, Sony's San Mateo division nursed those guys and helped and supported them. They gave them an incubation area basically within their studio. After that sort of contract ended, and that game company, they went off to make some weird mobile game or something from what I remember. Sony San Mateo wanted to continue working with smaller indie studios in that same ilk. What they actually ended up doing though is they invested in a game development program with students from Carnegie Mellon University, where they pumped money into it to see what would happen. The final results though were so interesting, let them form a game studio in itself, and that's how Pixelopus,
This whole creation of Pixelopus.
Pixelopus was born. Now, they are a very, very young studio. It really just can't compare to the major heavy hitters we have on this list. Also, just based on their product, okay, they've only produced 2 games. First game was Entwined. It was okay. Psychedelic twin shooter type of thing. Kind of interesting mechanics, but very basic. A variation on the Res type of gameplay. Pretty forgettable, to be honest, but fine. However, their second game, Concrete Genie, was a big step up. Full of really interesting game mechanics and level design. I mean, not a masterpiece or something, but you could see these guys have a lot of talent, and it was a nice sort of AA type of game that Sony produced within house, which is rare, you know, because most of their products are these massive AAA entities. So a mixed backlog, but they offer an intriguing alternative to Sony's big hitters. They bring a quirky, lower key energy and have an eye for offbeat projects. But let's face it, they still have a lot to prove if they want to be further up these kinds of lists. Polyphony Digital, best known for Motortune series, Gran Turismo series. This studio, they're based in Tokyo. They originally started as Poly's Entertainment. They made a handful of Motortune games, that's a series, a franchise, for the PS1. Then in 1997, he created the first Gran Turismo. Basically, it revolutionized the racing game, if I'm being perfectly honest. Sony bought them, changed them into the much more sexier titled Polyphony Digital. For decades, their sole focus has just been Gran Turismo titles non-stop. This franchise has graced almost every Sony device. The PS Vita didn't get anything, but besides that, everything else has gotten it, from PSP through all the main consoles, even VR. Well, Gran Turismo Sport had VR support. A lot more was promised to it. However, the final release version was very limited. They should really think about investing into making a full-blown VR title. Now, the reason why they're further down this list, okay, Gran Turismo used to be the most cutting-edge racing franchise there was. For racing fans, it was a reason to buy a PlayStation over any other console. In the coming years, Xbox has risen up with the Forza titles, especially the Horizon spin-offs, and they've stolen a lot of this franchise's thunder for racing fans. You know, you even get the new Forza Horizons via Game Pass. You don't even have to pay that crazy $70 asking price that Sony asked for. Their ranking has gone down the list. I'm not a major heavy racing sim fan, you know, I like my Mario Karts. However, still, you know, if you're a PlayStation gamer, this franchise is really where it's at when it comes to racing. You don't really have much choice either when it comes to exclusive races. This is it. It's always good quality. However, it's not as highly regarded as it used to be. San Diego Studio. These guys are best known for MLB The Show series, The Mark of Cree, and the NBA series. Now, this was one of Sony's first Western-based first-party studios. They started back in 2001 with The Mark of Cree, which is an awesome, very underrated video game. The influence it had on future titles like the Arkham series, Assassin's Creed, God of War.
Thank you! Thank the gods you came back for me!
I didn't come back for you.
No! Become my general. With you at my side, nothing can stop us. The world will tremble at our might. We will become rulers of...
It's undeniable, and it's a pretty cool stealth action game done in sort of a weird Don Bluth animation style. It's an interesting mix of stuff. It's a little dated nowadays, but oh, I love this one. This is a real classic. Fortunately, the sequel wasn't that great. And even more unfortunately, it came out at a time where Sony had no idea how to market a third-person action game.
Come again?
But yeah, this series flopped. San Diego then brought their focus over to sports games. First with the alright NBA series, that ran for a couple of years, and then sort of found their calling with the MLB The Show series in 2000, and that has just become a high priority. With the NBA series sort of got pushed to the back in 2008. Essentially, they stopped making them and they just focus on MLB. So pretty much is what's considered the peak baseball franchise out there. Throughout the years though, so unlike say Polyphony Digital, once they had success with Gran Turismo, they just made Gran Turismo. San Diego has still tried and do different stuff, but really to unsuccessful results. Tried stuff like edgy, free-to-play shooters.
Production lost.
They did a couple Mario Kart ripoffs. A whole bunch of shitty PS Move games. They even delved into VR, but really to unsuccessful results. In 2017, they just stopped trying to spread out. I believe there were 2 teams actually at one point. They axed that one second team, and then now they just have one main team that makes MLB non-stop every year. MLB is multi-platform nowadays. Just to add salt to the wound, they even released it on Xbox Game Pass day one. Wow.
How do you like them apples?
My smart, a lot of Xbox fans are singing to the rafters, oh, in your face. But let's not forget, Sony gets a cut of what's a product on Xbox. So, I guess everyone is happy. Yeah, so these guys, their placement in the list, I mean, if you're a baseball fan, for me, I'm a Mark of Cree fan. Unfortunately, that franchise sort of got forgotten about, and they haven't really been able to pick up an interesting type of game since. I'm not a baseball guy, so this company doesn't really register on my list. I know if you're a baseball guy, these guys might be number 1 even, but that's why they're a little bit further down. Team Asobi, best known for Astro's Playroom and Astrobot Rescue Mission. One of the kind of newest studios on this list. Their entry here is sort of surrounded a little bit by sad recent news. They were originally a studio within Sony's long-running Japan studio. Japan studio was crazy, it was massive. A big support house for a lot of first-party games as well as second parties. They also had a lot of amazing studios within Japan studio, like Team Ico or Team Siren. Within house, they developed masterpieces like Ico, Ape Escape, Shadow of the Colossus, cult classics like Legend of Dragoon, Gravity Rush, and Siren, to just really weird, bizarre shit like Echochrome, Puppeteer, Loco Roco. Oh yeah, and they also made Knack.
You call it Knack, is that right?
Actually, I call myself Knack.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Anyhow, besides the point, the studio as a whole had stopped making a profit. Sony shut them down, and sort of their own sole light within the studio itself was Team Asobi. Now, these guys have always been underdogs. Essentially, they created a tech demo section of the PS4 that was just meant to sort of be a cute peripheral. A lot of people ignored it until it was transferred over to VR, and it featured these cute little robots, the Astrobots, and that snowballed into a popular bunch of free side games that you could play within VR. One of those particular ones had you featuring as this little robot and was like a crazy hybrid of Mario 64 with Ape Escape. And the demand was so high that they made a full-blown game out of it. Personally, I think it's the best PSVR game made. Astrobot Rescue Mission. Absolutely lush, fantastic, great game, and one of the best platforms made of all time, regardless if it's VR or not. Just incredible stuff. And then what's even crazier is after that major success, then with the PS5, they created another tech demo for it, to show off its controller capabilities, its new tech. It came free with the console. Crazily enough, became one of the best review titles of the PS5's launch. Just nuts. Absolutely nuts. Awesome little game. It brings the studio into an interesting space because they've always kind of been the underdog. They were tech focused, worked within sort of the niche confines of VR, and then, no one really betted big on them, and they just kept succeeding and really surprising people with the products, which made them interesting. And they were sort of small within this larger Japan studio infrastructure. Now that is gone, and they have to stand on their own 2 feet. So we'll see. They've done some amazing, lovely stuff so far, but let's see if they can stand with the big boys, really. Firesprite, best known for the Playroom, the Persistence, and as Studio Liverpool, the Wipeout series. So this is a pretty fresh acquisition on behalf of Sony. They have snatched these guys up, and if you looked Firesprite up on a wiki page, you'd probably go, okay, fairly young, fairly inexperienced studio. However, the story goes a lot more deeper than that. So pretty much the team, almost in its entirety, used to be a studio called Psygnosis. They were a real standout developer way back in the early PlayStation days, or even DOS, Sega Saturn, Amiga, Atari. I mean, they've been around for a long time. One of their major hits was the Lemming series as well, sort of the cult classic, Shadow of the Beast, Destruction Derby franchise, and kind of on the tail end of as Psygnosis, they made the Wipeout series, the exclusive sci-fi racer for PlayStation. Off of the back of that, Sony straight up acquired them and turned them into Studio Liverpool. Despite having like a really colorful track record of creating games in all sorts of genre, Sony pretty much had them razor focus on just creating racing games. They ran the Formula 1 series until 2007, all while also continuing the Wipeout series along this line until 2012, where they released Wipeout 2048 for the PlayStation Vita. Now, they unfortunately then got shut down by Sony. They weren't pulling in their weight, so not surprisingly, the Wipeout series had lost its luster as the groundbreaking racing franchise, even though all the entries are solid. But yeah, it was a pretty sad story that these guys were shut down because they had this amazing track record as Psygnosis that really touched a lot of gamers' hearts. However, once they shut down, from the ashes, Firesprite. So you'd kind of assume there would be bad blood between them and Sony. They revamped themselves into this brand new studio, literally the year that they were shut down. However, that didn't really seem to be the case. They continued to work with Sony as a second party studio, so they helped run the UI and the visual designs on the Playroom, which was Team Asobi created that as a PlayStation 4 peripheral, and they also had a big hand in sort of helping transition that over to VR when they did the Playroom VR, which helped them cut their chops onto VR, which basically became their main focus. Before that as well, they did run Sackboy Run, the fairly okay Sackboy spin-off, came on Vita and mobile devices, and then they had the Air Force Special Ops Nightfall, sort of a tech demo of going out parachuting. I believe it's even free. I haven't tried it, but it's gone fairly meh reviews. From this amazing legacy of video games, their track record in Firesprite was okay. However, they created this amazing VR title called The Persistence in 2018. And my goodness, do I love this game. Fortunately, it never was a massive hit. It's gone on to become a deserved cult classic. Tense, tough, hard as nail gameplay. It's a roguelite which has you essentially having to move through 4 decks of a spaceship. You achieve certain little objectives within those, and you lose your weapons every time you die. However, you keep up things like upgrades or shortcuts and stuff like that. And yeah, very, very addictive, scary, but oh my god, so much fun. Probably one of the most underrated PSVR titles made. So Sony gave them funding for that title. It was initially a PSVR exclusive. They did let Firesprite keep the IP and sort of spread it out. You know, they eventually released on PC VR. They even did a flat screen version of the game, and it's a testament to the game. The game even holds up very well in flat screen because it's just that good. Most VR games would actually fall apart if you did that. So that's what makes this really cool, that Sony saw the potential in these guys and have acquired them. Now, for the past couple of years, they have been linked to making a VR version of a major franchise. They have not named which franchise it is, and we can probably ascertain that the results have been that good that Sony has just wanted to make this a permanent thing. But yeah, maybe it is a bit of a cheat to put them this high, because I'm not judging them just as a studio on their own. If that was the case, they would be a lot lower in this list. But I also have to grade them on their past history as Psygnosis Studio Liverpool, and that's an undeniable track record because it is that same essential core team. They've just been refurbished into a new name. London Studio, known for the SingStar franchise, the Getaway series, and Blood and Truth. This studio came to be when Sony took 2 of its UK-based studios, Sony Soho and Camden Studio. They shut them down and then essentially shoehorned them in together. This happened in 2002. Their first game was Sony's answer to the crazy success of GTA at the time. They did a UK-based sort of variation of GTA called The Getaway. Pretty cool game actually. It featured a very solid story.
Where's my son, you fat bastard?
It was, pretty decent hit. However, the sequel didn't gain a lot of traction. The series was axed, and London Studio had to kind of find their purpose elsewhere since that IP went away. They did that basically by being just game for whatever the Sony threw at them. They were a big supporter of the PSP, doing a lot of launch games for that. They're one of the really only big supporters of the iToy peripheral.
Welcome to the world of iToy.
Their bread and butter really was the SingStar franchise for years and years and years. I mean, just endless entries of that. They had a lot of success with that, and it made Sony a decent amount of money. However, for hardcore gamers, these guys basically were written off and kind of seen as has-beens.
Have fun playing iToy.
They had done something interesting with the Getaway, and now they were just sort of hacking out work for Sony to pay them bills, really.
Dollar bills, y'all.
However, that really changed in recent times, hence why they're further up this list after, some of these really good studios on the first party scene. They got rejuvenated by VR. They did PSVR Worlds, which was a tech demo for VR, for episodes to play different things. Like you have that one with the shark, which basically was my first experience in PSVR, and I basically shat myself.
Oh, hell no!
Then they also had this one section called London Heist, which really showed what the PSVR can do, and it was kind of a callback to their Getaway series almost. Now that was so well received, it led to them making a full-fledged game out of that called Blood and Truth, which hands down is one of the best PSVR exclusives, and a real major return to form for them. Fantastic shooter, mixing blockbuster, James Bond action with a Guy Ritchie crime movie, had good story, had fun mini games, and just a lot of badass shootouts, let's be honest. It has really shown London Studio is really one of the only first-party in-house studios within Sony that is really leaning into VR. London Studio seems there to stay. They seem to be the one developer that's really like invested in VR content going forward, and that's really exciting considering that Sony is developing a new PSVR system. So who knows what the future holds for them. They seem to be done with the SingStar stuff, and they seem to be pumping out VR content that can compete with the AAA single player games.